All right, thank you so much, George. And everyone, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this situation. Some people are from New York City, so you may know a little bit more than others. But currently, based on the mayor's state to the city last week, he asked for budget cuts across all the agencies. And the commissioner decided that in her budget, in Department of Sanitation, that she would wipe out our entire budget. And while things have been looming in the past, and we got already 1 million of our budget cuts in this last fiscal year, which started in July, nobody was anticipating this. We'll lose 115 people, 4 of them from Earth Matter, and it will not come back. It's not going to be the same situation if we lose this funding now, if the city council and the commissioner and the mayor do not reverse the position, which is slated to go into effect on December 31st. It will be the end of New York City supported community composting. So these are the partners that are impacted. The community partners, in addition to us, is the Grow New York City, who operates the farmers markets, Big Reuse, and Lower East Side Ecology Center, who are nonprofits that operate processing centers like we do on Governor's Island, and the 4 botanical gardens, New York Botanical Garden, the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, Queens Botanical Garden, and in Snug Harbor in Staten Island. I'm just giving a little bit of background for the funding that the city had started to provide in 1994. It was to promote education. At first, it just started with people attending courses that were led by the botanical gardens in the Lower East Side Ecology Center. They produced a manual. It's world renowned. It's a model. So they've invested quite a lot over the years in the educational component of having citizen action for people taking care of the earth and taking care of the organics that are generated locally. Next slide. Where we came into the picture was we were very inspired by the Lower East Side Ecology Center, who had set up a drop-off at the Union Square Park. And about 8 gardens got together as volunteers at the Fort Greene Compost Project. And before long, we had so much compost. The black bags represent food scraps. People were telling us that they came to the farmers market primarily to drop off their food scrap, and then they'd buy an apple. And so as time went on from 2005 to 2009, the volume grew so much that we recognized that we had to move to a new level. The Department of the City Council had voted as a pilot to start what we were doing in other farmers markets. And we decided that we wanted to form a corporation, and we landed on Governor's Island. So down in the picture below is our first year, where we started in 2009, 2010 on Governor's Island at Picnic Point. We were all volunteers for the first 3 years. Next slide. So this is our mission statement that we came up with. And again, people that are familiar with Governor's Island, you'll see behind the people that are turning compost that started coming in from the farmers markets, food scraps drop off, buildings that were the high-rise buildings from the Coast Guard. So those brick buildings with the white picture window frames are now part of the hills. They were dynamited. But that's where we started in our first few years of existence, where it was down in this area. And we were alongside with Big Reuse, the two nonprofits that accepted the food scraps that the public was able to drop off. After a few years, Lower East Side joined us, and our mission was about education, training, and processing these food scraps in the Department of Sanitation. Next slide. Provided not only for that processing, but they provided for us to train people through an apprenticeship program, and they funded that program for the first 5 years. And we worked with Brooklyn College. We worked with a lot of soil scientists, And we developed curriculum mostly about having people take what we consider to be more of an in-depth understanding about what goes into making compost, the art and science of composting. So we continue to grow. We got moved 3 times, and we're currently in a space that's once again going to get moved, ironically, because of the climate center that they want to build to study, which we're very much in support of, and we're a partner. And we continue our training program with the help a lot of Department Green Thumb and just people that just sign up and give us contributions to support the training. Okay, next slide. Over the years, we set up food scrap drop-offs ourselves, and this other picture was on to the right, shows you how many people participated in the Prospect Park drop-off. I think that was the largest, and they had a truck just from the people in Brooklyn that were participating in the drop-off. And what was wonderful about that drop-off was so many people were inspired by the people that were telling them little things like not to put in bags, like not to put in ties, what is organic and what is not organic. And so a lot of people really have been impacted over the years because of the education, because of the personal reactions that they were able to share, and because of the relationships they built. And even now, currently, we have several farmers markets that are putting aside food for our flock of 60 chickens, specifically the good food, which is when you talk about the food hierarchy, how we should eat food, share food, give it to animals, then compost it, and looking at this as a resource and not as waste. So next slide, please. So when we first went on Governor's Island, the vision was to create a closed loop model where we would be processing all of the food scrap on the island, as well as working with the horticultural team to incorporate all the yard waste. And from the get-go, we picked up at events. We worked with vendors, we worked with tenants, training them, educating them, and most of all, incorporating the materials into making the black gold that we give away primarily to community gardens and the landscape. And the goal has always been to create this inspiration for people to take it home with them, to be able to feel like they too can act to do this very basic function, which is to separate your food scraps and look at them as a resource to recover. Okay, next slide. So the picture on the right, you should be able to recognize our dear George, who participates in some of our training, because people are very eager to learn. A lot of people come, a lot of visitors visit. The picture on the left was when we had over 160 people come from all over the country, including Alaska and Hawaii, on a community composting gathering. They came for a week and they visited and participated. And it was just such a wonderful bunch of people that are all doing this, mostly professionally, but in a small scale, micro haulers, bike haulers. Some of them have grown. A lot of them, like the Compost Project, have set into set into motion something like we did, which is saying that this is the baseline entry. It always takes the grassroots people to get things started, but we advocated for the city to then take up the mantle and move it to the next level, and which is that the municipality should be accountable for making sure that what we have is resource recovery, and that our organics are not going into incinerators and not going into landfill. Okay, next slide. When the pandemic hit, more and more people got connected more to green spaces, recognizing them as an oasis, and more composting happened. And the community composting movement grew because a lot of people recognized that they could recycle their food scraps locally there. So we continue to get stronger and bigger, more popular. And we fought back because the pandemic cuts decimated our budget back then. And we worked with our city council members, and the budget got restored. So we were very happy and humbled by how many people came out on our behalf and recognized the value of community composting. So it got restored back then. Next slide. So what's at stake now? So Mayor Adams got elected, based on advocacy by many. The city tried again to instate the rollout of the compost program, and they gave another option, which is the bin in the third from the left, which collects food scraps. And it's a great system because you have to have a little code in order to utilize it. The picture on the right is they started to roll out the brown bin again in Queens, in some parts in Brooklyn, but there's now a halt on that. That's impacted by the budget cuts too. It's a delay, they call it. But what's going on is that the commissioner is now saying, rather than what work we've done with our very small budget compared to what the budget is for the rest of this rollout, is redundant. They don't see education as critical or the cornerstone. And so we're trying to impress that that's not the case, and that people really validate and recognize that the program for the rollout is needs us. It needs everybody to be working on education and validating that. A lot of people don't even know what it is when they get a brown bin, and you have to sign up for it. And the options for people to be able to see composting being made are almost non-existent. So right now, what happens to food scraps that are collected in the pilot, in the rollout, are going to the biodigester. And we know that currently that's not online. All the food scraps, and you can't process yard waste either. So all of the food scraps that are collected, if they're clean, which is a big if, are going to what the city wants to eventually do, which is create methane gas and have that into the pipeline to produce gas to heat homes in Queens, is getting flared off into the environment. So the first picture shows what currently happens for the farmers markets, food scraps. If people want to make sure that their food scraps are getting made into compost, they're dropping off at the farmers market. And as of December 31st, that's going to go away. The truck has been coming to Earth Matter. We've already got a cut in how much food scraps are coming to us. The amount of farmers markets that are operating for these food scrap drop-offs have been decreased. But as of December 31st, there is no funding that's going to be going to keep the community composting for those 7 partners in existence. Okay, next slide. So here's our action. We are asking if it's at all possible to circulate this with as many people as you know. We're told that even though we're having these rallies on the 6th, it may or may not be that the city council votes on them. The city council wants to see how many people really care. It's like, it's never proven, but that there's enough. So they may push the vote until the 20th of December, just to see how many people really care, how many people will come out, how many people will sign the petition, how many people say that this is something that they feel they should vote for. So it's really imperative that we continue to keep the pressure on the politicians. You can write to your city council member. You can call them. We have phone-a-thons. You can contact me if you'd like to get more information. But one very easy low-hanging fruit is if you could please sign the petition, which is here on the left. I'm heading over right now to hear Charlie talk about the composting, along with many other community members that are going to be speaking and rallying. And then if you have the bandwidth next week, our politicians that support us will be speaking before they go into a city council meeting next week on December 6th. So that's our message. And thank you, Renee, for, yes, the tonnage proves how many people care. Absolutely. And if anybody has any questions or any information you'd like right now, I'm happy to see what I can do to answer.
Thank you.
Margaret Brown asked, do you have a letter we can use to write the mayor? Yes, I have a template and I can send that. I don't think I can send it right now, but in addition to the petition, there's a form letter that you can customize. Can I send that to USI?
Yeah, send it to me, and then we'll we'll share it with all our participants, and we'll put it out with our email blast to everyone we know.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Oh, so one more.
Thank you to our compost warrior, Marissa. You rock.
Yeah, I want to keep this up there so people can, just scan that and get that information, and we'll share that flyer out as well. We'll put a little blast with this. And what are some like hard deadlines you want people to kind of respond?
There was just one more piece I wanted to mention. I think the hard deadline is the sooner the later. But one thing, it's not very well known. It's not known at all. Is that the budget cut impacts Earth Matter directly, in that our space allocation is connected with the Departments of Sanitation's funding, because the Department of Sanitation, the City of New York, looks at Governor's Island as a city resource. And so since 2012, they've funded all the processing for when people come to the island. On December 31st, when that funding goes away, the island won't have the ability to use us as processors. And so the state of the zero waste island model right now is on the chopping block. The compost that is made from Governor's Island for Governor's Island, as well as the community parks, are all part of this budget cut right now. So the Trust for Governor's Island is sympathetic to us. They are also getting budget cuts. Everyone's getting budget cuts, but they don't have the funding to supplement what the Department of Sanitation is taking out from under us.
So that is to say, also, if we were to go on this major fundraising bandwagon, that really wouldn't help much, because the funds that you rely on are literally going to nothing to keep Earth Matter going, right? So to do fundraising and to rescue you in some other way wouldn't work.
Well, I mean, later on we could ask for partner support and all, but at the moment, the goal is to put all the pressure collectively. So many different groups, so many nonprofits are impacted by this. Yeah. There's a big trickle down is kind of what I'm trying to say. Right. And this oasis that many of us have experienced on Governor's Island, this idea of where the island is going to support climate mitigation solutions and soil health. All of the foundational work that USI and many organizations have been contributing to over the years. Right. It's like a foundational pillar is getting removed from us if these budget cuts move forward.
It's hard to imagine.
Marissa, you sent out I signed a petition. I'm going to put the link in here again. It's still active, right? I put it in twice. Did you guys get that? To sign that petition. That's one of the most important, the easiest things anyone can do, right? They need to see numbers. They need to see who cares, right? So if you just go right now, forget about questions, go to that, fill it out, sign it, and do that.
Yep. And if you take a next step, we'll be sending you a form letter to go to your city council member, because not all city council members are on board, and we do need as many people as possible to go to their local government and ask them. And I'm hearing from Sadie that there's 330,000 petitioners that are signed on. And we know people care. And we really, really appreciate you spreading the love, spreading the word. We have to win this.